Hey there, this is Corey Lennox here from Surreal, and I'm joined today by our drummer Jeff. How's it going?
Tired.
And today we're going to do the official Surreal Dream Theater ranking of worst to best Dream Theater album of all time. And this is going to be pretty spicy, I think. I know my list, I have a lot of opinions that are probably going to piss people off, so I'm going to count on you to represent the average, Dream Theater fan.
At least the metal side of the fandom.
Exactly. Let's get into the last place spot. And
Okay.
I feel like this is going to make a lot of people upset because no matter what you pick for the last place album, it's going to be an album that somebody likes.
Somebody's a fan of all of these albums.
Exactly. And it's still Dream Theater, so even their worst album is still pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of
this one.
except for the ones that we picked. It's garbage. And I think for a lot of people, the last place spot would be When Dream and Day Unite, just because whenever I look up a list of the rankings of Dream Theater albums, the fact that you don't have James LaBrie is a deal breaker for a lot of people, and the production being kind of subpar. But I did not put that last on my list. Instead, I put my personal least favorite, which is Distance Over Time. What did you put?
My least favorite is already going to make people mad.
I feel like mine already did, so you're good to
Falling
go.
into Infinity.
Oh, well, that's one that a lot of fans really hate. Mm-hmm. That's one that's well known as being a very controversial album.
That is one where there's a couple of songs that are pure Dream Theater. Mm-hmm. The other songs are them trying to be something that they're not. You can feel the 90s threw up on it. And
yeah. No, that's a good pick for last place. Mm-hmm. I personally like that one. I put that higher, but I think a lot of fans would agree they're not being themselves. The record label had their fingers in what they were doing.
And half the best tracks aren't even on the album. Raise the Knife is not on there. There's supposed to be 2 CDs.
I'm gonna do a whole other video about that. Yeah, they cut so much great material trying to look for those singles. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it says something when they did their anniversary. Or 25 years of Dream Theater? They didn't play anything from them.
Oh, they didn't?
No, they played Raise the Knife.
That's right, for Score. Yeah, they played Raise the Knife, but they didn't play anything else. I never
that
thought
was
about
their
that.
pick from that era, was a song that wasn't on the album.
I never realized that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a good last place pick. Oh, I feel like I have to defend Distance Over Time. Being my last place pick. So for me, a lot of Dream Theater fans liked it because the drum mixing was good. You had a lot of technicality, a lot of... it was sort of a return to form after The Astonishing. But for me, I felt like my most important thing is always the songs. And I felt like you had the technical aspects, you had the production aspects, but the songs just didn't vibe with me as much. Mm-hmm. And I know fans are very divided because I talk to a lot of prog fans and a lot of Dream Theater fans, and half the people are like, what are you talking about? This album's amazing. And half the people were like, yeah, I don't know, the songs just weren't, the emotional side wasn't as there. They feel kind of cold to me. I don't find myself, re-listening to a lot of them, except for Barstool Warrior, which admittedly is amazing. Pale Blue Dot's good, Wits End's good, but for me, it doesn't resonate the same way, so I had to put it last place. Mm. Yeah. So what did you put as your, 14th?
I put The Astonishing.
You were not a fan of that one. Yeah, that's another one that the fans really
I wasn't
crap on.
Not a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fan of parts of it.
Right.
The only problem is those parts are few and far between. But I really like the parts that I like.
Yes. There's a lot of filler. I think if they made it a single album, obviously you'd lose the story, the concept, and it wouldn't be as sweeping, but there's so much fluff, and there is some really good stuff packed into that. And then for me, I did, for my, second to last place, this is really going to piss people off, but I did Systematic Chaos. And again, it's a good album. I have the same thing that I say about Distance Over Time, but to a lesser extent. I mean, it's got some amazing stuff, Presence of Enemies, Dark Eternal Nights, the shreddy metal centerpiece of it, but for some reason it just didn't land with me as much. And a lot of it, I never find myself going back to... In the Presence of Enemies Part 2 or Repentance, I just don't go back to that a ton. So, just personal taste.
Maybe wrong personal taste. That's fine. We'll talk about that.
You're wrong, but that's alright. So then, the next one I put A View from the Top of the World. And that one was really good. I liked the music in it. And I think there's a lot of cool things to dig into. But It's just another one that like I don't find myself re-listening to as much, but I really don't have an issue with it. I think the songs are strong, mixing strong. It's a good album. But yeah, what do you have?
We lined up on this one.
Oh, really?
From Top of the World.
Up top, man. That's awesome. Yeah, how do you feel?
I feel like it is missing. Every song has something that gets it to a point where it's either going to tip in the really good area or the okay area.
I see.
And I love James, but I didn't feel like any of his vocal things caught me at all.
I kind of get that. Like, I felt the same way about that in Distance Over Time, where I think they even said they wrote the vocals last. So it's kind of like the music's really good, and then the vocal melodies, and it's not that they're bad, but yeah, it's not as, you can tell they didn't start with that as the focal point.
Yeah. And the one exception I have is the Alien, where...
Yeah.
And I know he does like during the first verse he does the that's kind of like standard Dream Theater fare for verses.
Yeah.
But what's cool about it is the beat changing under it. So that's like a drummer song right there.
Right. For the next one I put The Astonishing, and we already kind of talked about this one. So I'll say like to me sort of the saving grace is just that they went so big with it. Right? They tried such a huge concept. And there's some good stuff, you know, there's Our New World, there's The Gift of Music, there's a lot of quality stuff, but there's also a lot of what you might consider to be fluff as well. Now, what did you put?
Mine is the self-titled.
Oh, yeah.
I remember listening to it a ton when it came out, and then, like, not at all afterwards.
Right.
I was like, I really liked it, because it starts strong with Enemy Inside and the instrumental thing.
The False Awakenings.
False Awakenings.
Yes.
And I think Illumination Theory is pretty good. But honestly, I don't remember anything else.
Well, I feel like
it's got a lot of like cool Metallica orchestral style stuff.
Right.
And like, but to me, I just don't go back to it for any reason.
I get that. Yeah. And you've seen like that's been one of my critiques is like every Dream Theater album is good, but how often do I go back to it, right? Like, that's a big feature. Next up, I put When Dream and Day Unite. So this one was, you know, it wasn't the lowest on my list, but it is kind of in the bottom of the pack because of everything we already talked about. You don't have James LaBrie, the production's a little rough, but the songs are amazing. Like, The Killing Hand blew me away. That was like my anthem in the summer of whatever it was, 2003. Like, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. So that was like one of the first epics I'd heard, and it just blew my mind. And you have the Yitch Jam, you have Fortune and Lies, Status Seeker. I mean, it's a good album. Only a Matter of Time. It's amazing.
I have never heard anybody pronounce the name of that instrumental.
The Yitz Jam. That's how I say it.
I have no idea how anybody says it. I just say Majesty because it's Majesty backwards.
Right.
I can't recommend it to anybody.
Have they ever said it like in interviews?
No.
Like, oh yeah, we wrote the Yitz Jam, however you say it.
They may have. But I haven't heard it.
We're gonna have to go like YouTube after this. What did you have for this place?
I have to do mine next. When Dream and Day Unite. For me, the first half of this album starts really strong, and then the second half is just a cluster of ideas
when you get to like
really
light the fuse and get away.
Yeah, I'm just like, this chorus is something. I don't know what it is, but it's something.
Interesting. And this perfectly segues into my next pick, which is Dream Theater, which is the self-titled. And I think this one, it really is underrated in my opinion, because I was looking up people's lists in preparation for this video, and a lot of people put this last, or close to last, right? And I think it's maybe one of the most underrated, because there's some really good gems on there. There's like Looking Glass, which is a great major key one. There's Along for the Ride, which is like a great, if I had to show someone a Dream Theater song who didn't know what they were, I would show them maybe The Spirit Carries On, and I'd show them probably Along for the Ride, because it's catchy, and yet you still have the solos, you still have like the interesting song form, you still have a lot of the things that make Dream Theater, but condensed. And what else? Bigger Picture is great. So there are some moments that aren't as good, you know, like the Illumination Theory I don't think was one of their better epics, but I definitely don't think it's bottom of the pack. I think the self-titled was pretty underrated personally, but we put it about the same in our ratings. So,
I guess like
not the best. Go for it. What do you
have? Distance Over Time.
Okay.
Because I think that one, it has the jam quality of their writing. It has that kind of writing style, but I feel like the vocal melodies actually work.
Okay.
They actually do something. Like, I like Untethered Angel. And I like other songs I don't remember. Barstool Warrior.
Barstool Warrior, yeah.
Pale Blue Dot.
Right.
I think the vocals work a lot better.
It's funny because I feel like we had opposite interpretations of that one, because that's what I didn't like about Distance Over Time was the vocal melodies as much. But I know, it's just different opinions. And
well, I think the vocal melodies are there. It's like, these are good ideas. They need a little more work.
I gotcha. So then after that, oh man, you're gonna...
Ooh,
Lorelai! So my next one, and this is probably gonna ruffle a lot of feathers because I put this pretty high, it's Falling Into Infinity. And I understand their critique. Yeah, right. I know, this was like your last place. I understand why the fans don't like it. I think the good moments are what save it, right? There are certain tracks I skip every time. Like, I'm never in the mood to listen to Just Let Me Breathe. You know what I'm saying? I'm never in the mood to listen to...
That is probably my least favorite Dream Theater song.
I think it's my least favorite too. Like, there's so many songs on there that I don't want to listen to, but the ones that are good are amazing. Like, New Millennium, Trial of Tears, Hell's Kitchen. You're talking about, if you want a ballad, you have your Anna Lee. Like, there's so many great moments on that. And what I like about it is it's kind of hard to pin down the genre. Like, it's not all metal. It's not all ballads. It's kind of somewhere in between. Oh, and Lions in the Sand, isn't that on?
That's an
amazing tune, dude. Like, there's so many good moments, and people let the, like, You Not Me and the Just Let Me Breathe and all that ruin their opinion of it. But, like, listen to New Millennium, listen to Trial of Tears. Like, these are amazing songs. Amazing.
I'm trying to grade it on the whole.
Yeah.
I put Systematic Chaos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I like the metal stuff
right
on it, and I find the soft stuff to be okay. But I like me some cheesy metal stuff.
Yeah, well, no,
and In the Presence of Enemies Part 2, when it goes in the Frankenstein section, works every time.
That's, a lot of people who are more into the metal scene, I talk to them and they're like, that's one of the best, right? So I knew I was going to make people mad by putting it so low, but this is why I'm glad we're like evening out our, we're averaging out our list. All right, now you're really going to kill me on this next one. Yeah. But, and I could have, any other band, this would be like the best album that they've ever done. But I put Octavarium. Amazing album. I have nothing bad to say about it. But there's just other ones I like better. You disagree?
Yes.
Okay. What did you put for this one?
All right. Well, this is going to be a controversial spot for me.
Okay.
I put Awake.
Ooh, low for Awake, my friend.
Very and I really like Awake.
Yeah.
But it's when James was starting to really lean into the rasp in his voice.
Yes.
And I don't think it works as well as he wanted it to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it works better than most of the times he does it.
Uh-huh.
But I think he was still trying to find it.
I see.
And for me, it starts to make some of the longer songs. Because this is also when they started adding in, like, the 7 strings and all that.
Right.
And they were getting really weird with that, and I felt like a lot of it just droned on.
I kind of see it like, I find it to be almost hypnotic in some, like, you can get lost in it. So maybe that's where you're sensing that same quality, but it's more like, oh, it's droning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, listen, I listen to Tool, so I know about droning.
Yeah. I used to be super into Tool, so yeah. There's something to be said for, like, getting lost in the music like that. But,
But getting bored in the music.
You don't want to be bored, right? Yeah. You don't want it to feel like you're just slugging through it.
There's just certain parts of the album where I feel like it is kind of slogging into
because I respectfully disagree. I put Awake pretty high, but I see where you're coming.
I go to Tool for Tool. I go to Dream Theater for
Dream Theater.
And I'm going to Dream Theater for Dream Theater with bits and pieces of Tool in it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's fair. So then above that, oh yeah, see this is controversial. I did put A Dramatic Turn of Events slightly above that, and I feel like I could have ranked them at the same place because I view them the same way. They're both balanced. Everything I just said about Octavarium applies to A Dramatic Turn of Events. You have the rockers, the ballads, the emotion, the technicality, everything you want from Dream Theater. But I think I just actually like A Dramatic Turn of Events slightly more. I don't even know why. What'd you put?
I put Dramatic Turn of Events.
Oh, really? Nice. All right. So we agree on that one. That's solid.
I mean, that one is it's a good return to Dream Theater after not being sure if Dream Theater was going to be Dream Theater.
Right. You were like, oh gosh, are they going to be the same band now that Portnoy's gone?
Granted,
and they came out with that, and it was so good.
Granted, if you start to analyze it, you start to realize everything on it is kind of
images and words. Yes, I've seen people go through that. They're like, yeah, here's It's like beat by beat kind of images.
It very much is, and I don't care because I like images.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Spoiler, it's coming.
It's coming up.
I
don't think anyone's going to be surprised by the top two.
It's not coming up for a while.
Right.
I'll tell you.
No one's going to be surprised by the top two. But it'll be interesting to see which we put where. So then after that, I put Black Clouds and Silver Linings. I love this album. The Count of Tuscany, incredible. You're talking about, Nightmare to Remember, Wither, Best of Times, Shattered Fortress. I mean, so good.
Yep, my next one was Train of Thought.
Nice.
I grew up on Metallica and Megadeth and a little bit of Avenged Sevenfold.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
classic.
The riffs are what I'm in there for.
Right.
And that was the whole point of that album, was just writing guitar riffs.
Yes.
And as much
perfect guitar riffs. Yeah.
As much as I like the other albums, I don't really start playing the Metropolis riff, the one everybody knows.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's not like a riff on most Dream Theater songs that is the main riff.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly changing the riff.
They almost took a Metallica approach on Train of Thought, where they say this is going to be the iconic riff for the song, and it's going to really stand out and sort of carry what the song is doing.
And then they put everything in C tuning.
Yeah, exactly. A drop C gets super chunky on it. But yeah, I mean, that's an awesome album. So we agree on that one. So the next up, I put Train of Thought, perfect. Oh, so here's where I defend myself as a metal fan, right? So people are going to watch this video and they're going to say, oh, Corey, you're not a metalhead. You don't like metal enough. Train of Thought's an amazing album. I think for me, I love the metal side of things, but you can't just make something metal and I'll automatically love it. You know what I'm saying? It has to be good metal. It has to be, and to me, Train of Thought is just the pinnacle of that heavy, heavy, dark sound. And it's so well done. Hi. Do you want to be in the video? Come here. Yes, she does. Say hi, Vivi. We're talking about your favorite band, Dream Theater.
What's your favorite band too?
She actually does love them. We'll pull them up on the TV or on the phone, and she's just she loves it. What's your 5?
We'll get to that.
Hit me.
Black Clouds and Silver Linings.
Black Clouds and Silver Linings. You put it a little higher than I did.
I feel like the Shattered Fortress just didn't do much of anything.
That's fair. I think
it was a big reprisal, and none of the themes go together.
I don't like it as much as This Dying Soul, Last Prison, right? The bar was set really high with the first part of the suite, the first couple parts. And I agree, I like that one, but it's not as good as the other.
I like the new stuff that they put in it.
Oh, yeah.
There's 1 or 2 new things.
Right.
It's I like those. We should have focused on those.
Yeah, should have focused on the new stuff. So now we're getting into the top 4. And I'll tell you, my 3 and 4 and my 1 and 2 are interchangeable. So, in other words, 3 and 4 I couldn't decide between, and 1 and 2 I couldn't decide between. So for my number 4, I put 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Unreal. Now this could easily be top 3. I think 6 Degrees is the most challenging album. When I think of just absolute technical craziness, how did they even piece this together? 6 Degrees. When I think of giant themes, the orchestra, when I think of the concept, 6 Degrees is, I don't know how you can create that. It boggles my mind. Now, what did you put for number 4?
Number 4 is 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Oh, yes, so good. So we have the same number 4 for sure.
That one took a long time for me to get into every song.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's challenging, right?
And it took forever for me to like the Disappear song.
Oh, really?
Because it's just so weird.
It's weird and very sad. But I liked that one right out of the gate.
And my only part that I don't care for is I feel like the overture just goes a little too long.
I get that. I think for me it's the ending of Misunderstood. Just kind of drags on for so long with that guitar feedback.
The thing is, you're at the ending. Just turn it off.
Just go to the next song.
Flip tracks.
But I mean, it's such an amazing album, And I will say the reason I put it at number 4 instead of 3, so now I'm going to go to number 3, is I feel like there are certain songs I'm not always in the mood for. I'm not always in the mood to listen to Goodnight Kiss or War Inside My Head. Sometimes I might skip 1 or 2, or the Overture. I might skip that one every now and then. But on my number 3 album, I don't want to skip any of the songs, and that's Awake. Awake is incredible. There's something magical, mysterious, just amazing about Awake. And you're right, James is experimenting with the grit. You're coming out of the Images and Words era where everyone's really in their A game. And I just think Awake is an incredible album, and it belongs at number 3. What do you think?
My number 3 is Octavarium.
Octavarium.
Not a single bad song.
True.
And this is not for debate.
Great album. Yeah, no, it's an amazing
Not a single bad song on it, and I'll even listen to the title track without needing a nap in between.
Yeah, the title track's amazing, one of the best epics. And it's a very tight album for them too, I feel. Like, everything's so punchy. It's a great album.
It has, like, every genre is on it, and not in a way that's a disaster.
Right.
Which is very hard to do.
Right.
And it has one of the first Dream Theater songs I've ever listened to.
Really? Which one?
Which was, I'm drawing a blank, Panic Attack.
Oh, Panic Attack.
And that's straight to the metal side of it.
Yeah, Panic Attack's great. Yep.
Do you like Panic Attack?
I haven't heard that one.
That's gotta be your
says
favorite one.
He says it's too scary.
It might be a little much.
It's a little intense for people. So now, this only leaves one thing left, the top two.
We know what these are.
We know what the top two are, but what order did we put them in? We all knew Metropolis Part 2 and Images and Words were going to be the top two. For me, well, I'll let you go first. I want to hear what you think.
It is the first album by them I ever bought, and I bought it on a whim, and it'll forever be my second favorite. It's Images and Words.
Very nice. So tell me about Images and Words. That was the first one you bought, you said.
Yep, it was the first album I bought, and I was not sure what the hell was happening.
That would be really scary to just dive into, yeah.
Because Pull Me Under makes sense until they decide to stop the song for no good reason.
Right, yeah.
And then suddenly there's a saxophone.
Yeah, suddenly we go to power ballad with a soprano sax.
Suddenly there's a Michael Jackson groove.
And then we're going into funk, white man funk.
Yep, this is...
And then we're going into, like, piano ballad again, but
piano
happier
ballad
this
again
time.
in some weird, was it
9/4, I think.
9/4,
yeah.
Okay. Some weird time signature.
Yep.
I'm like, why did he double that beat there? That didn't make sense.
That was strange. And then you
Who
get
does
to
that?
And then you get to is it Metropolis
Part
1? And then Under Glass Moon. I mean, what are you thinking at that point?
Like,
is your brain just on the floor?
I need to practice a little more.
That's always the feeling listening to Dream Theater.
And then it's nap time, so you can wait for sleep. And then Learning to Live.
Incredible.
Not a bad, again, like, same thing with the top three songs are all like, there's not a bad song.
Right. You can listen straight through Images and Words, and every song is awesome. And it's funny, my first Dream Theater album was Metropolis Part 2, and I put that at number 2, and I put Images and Words at number 1. And here's why. Obviously, they could both be number 1. For me, Metropolis Part 2 is maybe the better album because it's so conceptual. It has this story, but it doesn't fall into the trap that concept albums fall into where you don't like the individual songs. Far from it. Like, every song on Metropolis Part 2 is amazing. Again, like 6 Degrees, you listen to it and you say, how could they write this? It's so good, right? I'm just blown away. I'm like, how did human beings create this? Like looking up at the Sistine Chapel or something. It's that good. And Images and Words is also that caliber, but I just find that personally, for whatever reason it is, I enjoy going back to Images and Words slightly more. And it may just be that, like, I slightly prefer the major key stuff, and you have a little bit more with, like, Surrounded and the middle section of Learning to Live. You just have a little bit more of that maybe than Metropolis Part 2, which is a little bit darker. But I feel like if you're more into the metal, Metropolis Part 2 has to take the cake. And if you're more into, like, the songwriting, the Kevin Moore, the 90s power ballads, like Images and Words is probably going to be the number 1, right?
Go with the songwriting stuff again.
Just a slightly different, but just slightly different emphasis, because they both have amazing metal tracks. They both have unbelievable songwriting. And so that, I mean, you almost can't choose between the two.
Yeah, those will flip from day to day.
Yeah.
But I know everybody I show that album to loves that album.
Yeah.
And not everybody I show Images and Words to loves that one.
That's a good point.
And mainly because it gets really weird.
Yeah.
It goes from not so weird.
You lose people on Metropolis. Like, Surrounded.
It's very easy to lose people on Metropolis.
Right. I will say, you're exactly right. Like, I'll put on Metropolis Part 2 for people, and I love that it starts, close your eyes and begin to relax, right? And people are just like, what? And there's a little ticking. Yeah. It's just such a journey, right? And it just grabs your attention. Whereas when you start Images and Words with a new person, they're like, oh, it's 90s hair metal. And you're like, but wait, there's more, Let's see what else happens.
I don't get to Metropolis Part 2. Well, I almost went against my argument.
Oh, really?
But, like, I discovered Metropolis Part 2 because of Part 1.
Right. And I went the other way. I was like, what's Part 1? Like, if Part 2 is a whole album, what's Part 1? And then I think I was like, oh, it's just one song. Like, I want it to be more. It was actually my guitar teacher. I brought in the CD of Metropolis Part 2. And he goes, man, you're going to make me do this today. And I was like, you know Dream Theater? He goes, of course I know Dream Theater. I'm a guitar player.
We're getting nothing done today.
Yeah, he's like, we can try it, but it's going to be hard. And then he says, have you heard Images and Words yet? And I go, no. And he's like, you got to go back and listen to Images and Words. And so I did, and I was blown away by it, and yeah, they're both amazing. So I think we got a good list. I'll average it out and I'll put it on the screen here, and we'll see where everything's stacked up. It'll be interesting to see like where, because we had certain things that were totally flipped, like Falling into Infinity, Distance Over Time, so we're probably going to end up like somewhere in the mid-bottom of the pack, but I don't know what last place is going to be, and I don't know what a lot of it's going to be, so we're going to put it on the screen.
No matter what it is, I'll be mad about it.
No one's going to be happy with this video.
We made every single viewer mad.
We made every Dream Theater fan mad.
Everybody's going to be calling us idiots.
Exactly. Everyone's going to be in the comments like, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
And they're completely right.
I think we have some ground to stand on.
They're both. They're both in neither.
Exactly. Right. It's all a matter of opinion. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This has been Jeff and Corey from Surreal, signing off.